Walt Disney built a magical kingdom filled with childhood dreams and unforgettable memories. But if you look a little closer, there's more going on behind the scenes of this so-called happiest place on Earth. For years, cast members have shared stories about mysterious footsteps, voices calling out, and spirits that just can't seem to leave the park they adored when they were alive. These aren't just the spooky tales from the Haunted Mansion. These are real experiences passed down through generations of Disney employees. They've learned one thing for sure: some magic never fades away. Join me as we explore 8 genuine paranormal encounters from Disneyland. These stories have been carefully researched, built from cast member testimonies and documented incidents spanning nearly 60 years, and we will see if the land of imagination has another side to it. You may have walked these paths and ridden these attractions, but you've never heard what happens after the gates close and the lights go down. On Main Street, USA, just past the entrance tunnels and across from City Hall, stands a red brick firehouse that looks like every other charming Victorian building in Disneyland. But in the second-floor window, a lamp burns day and night. Cast members know what that light means. It's a symbol of the man who built this kingdom, and according to dozens of employees over nearly 6 decades, the spirit who refuses to leave it. Walt Disney died in 1966, but ask any long-time cast member, and they'll tell you the same thing. Uncle Walt, well, he never really left his park. Walt Disney personally designed that apartment above the firehouse as his private sanctuary within the park. When Disneyland opened in July 1955, he needed a place to escape the crowds, to watch his dream come alive from above, and to host visiting dignitaries and Hollywood celebrities away from public view. The lamp became his signature, a beacon that told everyone Walt Disney was in his kingdom. On December 15, 1966, Walt Disney died at St. Joseph Hospital in Burbank, California, just across the street from his studio. He was only 65 years old. Lung cancer had taken him quickly, just 10 days after his initial hospital admission. The man who had spent 11 years building and perfecting Disneyland, who had walked every inch of his park and knew every cast member by name, was gone. Just weeks after his death, a maintenance worker was assigned to clean the apartment. It had been sealed since his passing, untouched and gathering dust. She climbed the narrow stairs with her cleaning supplies, unlocked the door, and stepped into the silent rooms. Everything remained exactly as Walt had left it. She dusted the furniture, swept the floors, and as she prepared to leave, she noticed the lamp was lit, which was a bit unusual for daytime. She didn't remember it being on when she arrived, but assumed another employee had turned it on earlier or forgot to turn it off that morning. So she switched it off, locked the apartment, and left. When she reached the street and glanced back, the lamp was glowing in the window. Confused, she climbed back up the stairs to the apartment and turned the lamp off again. She made sure it was completely off this time, checked the switch twice, then left and locked the door behind her. From the street, she looked up again. Would you believe it? The lamp was back on. Her heart racing, she went back up a third time. She stood in the apartment, staring at the lamp she'd just turned off. And as she watched, the warm amber light flooded the room. This time it gave her a calm, peaceful feeling. She never tried to turn that lamp off again. But then the footsteps started. Cast members closing Main Street shops late at night reported hearing slow footsteps walking across the apartment floor above them, back and forth, as if someone was pacing. When they radioed security to check, no one was ever found inside. The apartment had been locked, empty, and untouched. Yet the footsteps continued every night. The manifestations evolved beyond the apartment. Cast members working the closing shift on Main Street began reporting a distinctive smell of cigarette smoke in areas where smoking had always been prohibited. The scent would appear suddenly in backstage corridors, near the partner statue, and around the railroad station, places where Walt was known to sneak away for a quick smoke during his lifetime. The smell would linger for several minutes, then vanish completely. So there you have it. Walt wasn't haunting Disneyland in any traditional sense. He was still present, still watching over his creation, still ensuring his dream continued exactly as he'd envisioned. Cast members began to view his presence not as frightening, but as comforting. Uncle Walt had promised Disneyland would never be finished, that it would continue to grow and evolve. And it looks like in death, he simply isn't letting go of his dreams. Every morning before Pirates of the Caribbean opens, a cast member walks to the control room microphone and speaks into the darkness. "Good morning, George." In the early 1970s, when Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom was under construction, a worker named George was building the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. According to legend, George was welding a beam high above the ride's burning city scene when tragedy struck. Some versions say he fell 4 stories to his death. Others claim a massive beam collapsed and crushed him instantly. Disney has never confirmed any construction fatality, and no death certificate has ever been found. But something happened in that building, because from the moment Pirates of the Caribbean opened in 1973, cast members knew they weren't alone in there. That all sounds a bit mysterious, so let's see what happened. The first incidents were subtle. Ride operators would arrive in the morning to find doors standing open that had been locked the night before. The door behind the prison dog with the keys became known as George's door, and it would creak open throughout the day, despite being secured multiple times. Tools would go missing from maintenance areas and reappear in completely different sections of the ride. The mysterious phone calls started next. The control room phone would ring at odd hours, especially late at night. When operators answered, they'd hear nothing but static, or sometimes what sounded like breathing. The calls always came from within the building, from extension numbers that led to empty backstage areas. Cast members developed rituals to appease George. Every morning, the opening crew member would announce, "Good morning, George," over the PA system. Every night at closing, someone would say, "Good night, George." Management didn't officially require this, but they didn't stop it either, because on the rare occasions when George wasn't greeted, the ride experienced unusual problems throughout the day. Today, cast members still greet George every single morning and bid him good night before they leave. Because deep in that dark building where pirates sing and cannons roar, something else is listening, and it expects to be remembered. On the Matterhorn Bobsleds, there's a section of track that cast members call Dolly's Dip. On January 3rd, 1984, Dolly Young took her seat in a Matterhorn bobsled for what should have been a thrilling ride down the mountain. She was around 47 years old, visiting Disneyland with friends. As the bobsled climbed the track and began its twisting descent through the artificial mountain, something went catastrophically wrong. Dolly was thrown from her seat and fatally injured after being struck by another bobsled on the track. Investigators examined the ride mechanics exhaustively, but never determined exactly what caused her restraint to fail. Yet somehow, Dolly Young fell. And in those terrible seconds, the Matterhorn became more than just an attraction. It became a grave marker. If you feel the need, just Google Dolly Young Disneyland, and you can read her story. Within weeks of Dolly's death, cast members working the Matterhorn began experiencing strange phenomena. The first reports came from the closing crew, the employees who walked the track each night after the ride shut down, inspecting for damage or debris. These walks were already eerie in the silent darkness, but in the section where Dolly had died, something felt different. Cast members reported an overwhelming sense of being watched. The temperature would drop noticeably in that specific area, even though the rest of the mountain remained the same. Some described it as walking into a pocket of cold air that shouldn't exist. Others felt an inexplicable sadness wash over them, a crushing grief that appeared and vanished the moment they left that section of track. The sounds began shortly after. Late-night maintenance crews working inside the mountain reported hearing a woman's scream echoing through the hollow interior, but only in that one section. The scream would last just a few seconds, then cut off abruptly, exactly as it must have on the night Dolly died. Cast members developed an unspoken respect for that section of track. They'd acknowledge Dolly quietly as they passed, a small nod or whispered greeting, not a ritual like George at Pirates, but a personal gesture of recognition. The phenomena never stopped completely, but longtime employees noticed they seemed less intense when Dolly was acknowledged, as if she simply needed to know she hadn't been forgotten. The Haunted Mansion claims to house 999 happy haunts, but some spirits inside aren't part of the show, and they're not happy at all. Let's find out who they are. The Haunted Mansion opened at Disneyland in 1969, designed to be a playful journey through a Victorian estate filled with theatrical ghosts and ghouls. It became one of Disney's most beloved attractions, with elaborate special effects creating the illusion of supernatural activity. But over the decades, a disturbing trend emerged. Grieving families, determined to give their loved ones an eternal home in their favorite place, began secretly scattering human ashes throughout the mansion. Despite explicit prohibitions and security measures, the practice became so common that Disney maintenance crews developed a codename for it: HEPA cleanup. Special vacuum systems had to be deployed regularly to remove the remains. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves a small boy, seen primarily on the security camera monitors. Cast members reviewing surveillance footage noticed him appearing in various sections of the attraction, always alone, always seeming to enjoy himself. The unsettling part came when operators checked those locations in person. The areas were always empty. No child was ever found. The sightings became so consistent that cast members gave him a name and began tracking his appearances. Some believed he was one of the children whose ashes had been scattered there, a young guest whose dying wish was to remain in the Haunted Mansion forever. Other phenomena occurred throughout the attraction. Cast members working alone after hours reported hearing children's laughter, the sound moving from room to room, as if kids were running through the mansion playing. When they investigated, they found no source. The laughter would stop abruptly the moment they entered a room, only to resume somewhere else in the building. Very disturbing were the incidents involving guests who scattered ashes getting caught in the act. Security would detain them, explain the health code violations and the disrespect to other guests, and escort them from the park. The Haunted Mansion still welcomes thousands of guests daily, its 999 happy haunts performing their theatrical scares with mechanical precision. But cast members know the truth. Some of the spirits inside aren't audio animatronics. Some weren't invited. And some are children who just wanted to stay in the place they loved most, forever trapped in an eternal ride that never lets them leave. Late at night, monorail pilots see a shadow. It's running on the track, ahead of their train, and is always just beyond the beam of their headlights. Sounds eerie, but let's find out who it is. The Disneyland Monorail opened in 1959 as America's first daily operating system, gliding silently above Tomorrowland and providing transportation between the park and the Disneyland Hotel. On June 17, 1966, a tragic accident shattered the monorail's safety record. Thomas Guy Cleveland, a 19-year-old recent high school graduate, was visiting Disneyland with friends during grad night celebrations. Late in the evening, Cleveland attempted to sneak into the park by climbing onto the monorail track, planning to walk or run along the beam to bypass the entrance gates. He was spotted by a cast member who immediately radioed for the monorail to stop, but the message came too late. The sleek train came around a curve, its pilot unable to see Cleveland on the track ahead in the darkness. The monorail struck him, and Thomas Cleveland became the first person to die in a Disneyland attraction accident. The tragedy devastated his family, shocked the park, and left an indelible mark on everyone who worked the monorail system. If you need more details, just Google Thomas Guy Cleveland, Disneyland, and you can see his picture and story. Within months of Cleveland's death, monorail pilots working late began reporting unsettling encounters on the tracks. The most consistent phenomenon involved seeing a human shadow or figure running along the monorail beam ahead of the train, always staying just beyond the reach of the headlights. Pilots experienced more than just visual encounters. Some reported feeling the monorail shudder or vibrate as if passing over something on the track, a sensation identical to what the pilot on that fatal night had felt. Yet, when they stopped to investigate, the rail was clear. Technical anomalies accompanied the sightings. The monorail's motion sensors and safety systems would occasionally trigger warnings when passing through Cleveland's section of track, indicating an obstruction or presence on the beam that investigation always proved didn't exist. Communication systems would experience brief static or interference in that area. The monorail still glides silently above Disneyland, carrying guests between the park and hotel just as it did in 1959. But late-night pilots know to watch the tracks carefully, to trust their instruments, but also trust what they see in the shadows. Because somewhere on that beam, Thomas Cleveland is still running, still desperate to reach safety, forever trapped in the final seconds of a night that ended in tragedy. For nearly 70 years, Disneyland has been called the happiest place on Earth, a kingdom built on dreams and childhood wonder. Millions of guests have walked through those gates, ridden these attractions, and left with memories that last a lifetime. But some visitors never left at all. Thank you for watching this Spooky Chronicles production. Click that like button to help push the video out to other viewers. Tap subscribe to join our community. Ring the notification bell and hit that hype button so you never miss another video. And share this video with a friend who swears they don't believe in ghosts. Good night.